should have known by the way you parked your car sideways, said it wouldn't last. You're the kind of person believe in making out once, love them and leave them fast. Guess you should be done, fill a pocket full of horses, talking in trouble confused. But it was Saturday night, I guess that makes it alright. You said, what if I got to lose? Come on. Money, I said, little that, all that. Baby, much too last. Oh, little that, all that. You need a love that's gonna last. I guess you should have closed my eyes when you drove me to the place where your horses run free. But I felt a little ill when I saw all the pictures of the jockeys that were there before me. Believe it or not, I started to worry, wondered if I had a love class. But it was Saturday night, I guess that makes it alright. You said, baby, I ain't got no gas. Oh yeah, little red velvet. Baby, much too bad. Here she was, little red velvet. We need to find a love that's gonna last. Body like yours, gonna be in jail. It's on the verge of being up soon. Move on, baby. Give me the keys, I'm gonna try to take your little red love machine. Little red velvet. Baby, you must too fast. Here she was, little red velvet. You need to find a love that's gonna last. Little red velvet. We need to find a love that's gonna last.
All right, Thomas Blug on guitar, Coco Powell on box, and of course, the lovely, well-dressed Les Warner on drums.
Hey, welcome to Academy of Tone 309. We have a little celebration of Prince. Yesterday was the 10th anniversary of his passing, and well, it's worth thinking about Prince because, as we all can see, there are Prince vinyls everywhere and CDs, and that's all my private collection. So I'm a Prince fan myself. And I've been there when I was younger, and he was changing the world with his music. Unbelievable. I remember every record that came out was a surprise. Every new thing, because he had so many different style changes and so many fresh ideas. And it was, of course, a combination of so many things. Killer songwriting, killer production, visuals, videos. I mean, the most advanced thing there was back in the 80s, 90s. And I used to be also a producer back then. This is my business card. I don't know if we can see that. We had a record company, Aloha Records, because I was producing, some bands from Hawaii, and I was a sound designer, not only for using Kettner amps, but also for Mindprint studio gear. Some of the guys might know that there are studio channel strips of Mindprint, and a lot of these products have been inspired by myself. Me being a guy that was working also as a session player in the studio. I hear some noise here because I have kind of a hidden pedal board here underneath all my stuff, because I wanted to show you some of Prince's recipe when it comes to guitar playing and gear. But before we dive into the gear thing, let me talk about two little things. One is the Blue Guitar Community Jam, which is going on based on the Bond theme. If you want to join, there are two options for you guys. One is the more classic option, and the other one is the more metal option. So you can download the backing tracks, and you can record your guitar track, send it to us, film yourself, and we will have a final compilation with all everybody that is recording something for this kind of record. You will find some description you will find more information in the description below. Okay, the other thing I have to get out of the way is this Friday, I'm playing in Mannheim in the Siebener Club. It's my Rock Anarchy, and guess what? The last song of the Rock Anarchy can happen to be a Prince song. Of course, it's Purple Rain, because it's the best song to end a concert and send people home with only good feelings. And so we are using that song a lot with the Rock Anarchy. So I'm sure we have to play it now. Friday, starting 8 o'clock in Mannheim Siebener Club. Okay, the other thing, let's talk about gear. And there is one very new thing on the market that came from Rich, who is now working for Adam Hall, and it's something you have never seen before. I mean, this is a 1/4-inch jack, no problem. And this is a 1/4-inch jack, which can be a flip jack and being angled. I don't know if you need it, but it comes handy when you have a Stratocaster and when you go and have like a Gibson guitar. I'm talking about my 335, just to show you. So on the Strat, it would make no sense to have an angled cable. So here you go straight as usual. Okay, and for the Gibson, you know, when you plug it in like this, it's kind of dangerous, because when your hand touches it, it can put a lot of pressure on the socket and maybe even hurt the guitar. But like this, it's angled and it's nicely out of the way. So, little tricky Adam Hall cable, the flip jack. Okay, let me talk about Prince. I do have we do have a very long, about an hour interview with Kat Dyson. Kat was playing with Prince for many, many years, also besides Mike Scott, but she has all the insights. She was there when big things were happening. So there will be a very interesting, very cool interview with Kat. But first, let me give you my personal connection with Prince. We have to understand where Prince is coming from. I mean, Minneapolis, USA, father, jazz piano player, okay? Mother, jazz singer. So music was already very present in Prince's life from like day one. And, you know, about many things, the parents split up, and I don't know if he was growing up more at his father's side, but he had a lot of access to the piano, and he first played the piano. So, and of course, having a professional, think of it, a professional piano player as a dad, if you are a little bit serious about playing music, you get somewhere. So that's maybe step one. I don't know about his singing and the mother, but at least he was exposed to high quality music, and in a very family atmosphere and in a very intense atmosphere. He has seen shows of his parents and his dad, and he also, when the parents split up, probably spent a lot of time on his own, because the parents had to work to well, get some money and feed the family. And so I can just imagine that he had time that he spent with the instrument, piano. But then I heard a story that he had to move to another place and there was no piano. So he grabbed the guitar, and that was kind of the next instrument that he had in his hands. And he, I guess, again, spent a lot of time with that instrument. Then there's a quite colorful background when it comes to Prince. You can hear that all in his music, his influences. There is, of course, the funk, you know, that kind of American funk, Sly and the Family Stone, Earth, Wind and Fire, and you know, you name it. Funk music is one of the ingredients, and that means groove. And then all the other instruments and all the other styles, like Miles Davis, jazz, you know, coming from the parents' side. Then think of rock, even, you know, Jimi Hendrix, when you look at his stage presence, the way he acts as a guitar player on stage, that's a lot of, I can see some Jimmy there. And you know, there's different styles of guitar players. When you think of, you know, there are some guys that they are more controlled in a way, and they, you know, let's say Alan Holdsworth, for example. I mean, outstanding, but it is a completely different style than like Jimi Hendrix, or even in the rock genre, when you have a Jimmy Page and a Jimi Hendrix. Hendrix had a certain edge, a certain roughness, different. I'm not saying anything is better than the other thing. It's just a very, very special character. And I can feel a lot of that when I'm listening to his music, because I was, and I still am. And he is like a inspiration also to me as a producer, as a songwriter, as an arranger, as somebody that came up with new sounds. I think that's it. You know, there's more than just one thing. I mean, some people are famous for being, you know, the killer guitar player, but yeah, here's a list of Prince's favorite artists: Miles Davis, Joni Mitchell, and he was even playing with her, Led Zeppelin, D'Angelo, the Cocteau Twins, a very 80s thing that I remember, Björk, also again a very poppy thing that was so different. The production was outstanding. Yeah, so that is all the stuff that you know that I can hear there. And then of course, when we go back to the music, James Brown, of course, Funkadelic, Stevie Wonder, Larry Graham, you know, all, you know, Sly and the Family Stone, all these are super important ingredients in the music that inspired him. But every time when he did something, it was not copying anything. It was taking the ideas to a new level. And, you know, in the internet, I heard the rumors that he was like working 24 hours in the studio because being a maniac. I mean, it's like the guy had a vision, the guy was on fire. He came up with so fresh stuff. That's, for me personally, what I always have been impressed by. And yeah, I put the Michael Jackson record here too, because there was a little rivalry between the two, the king of pop and Prince. I think Michael Jackson was a little bit bigger, but Prince, I mean, filling stadiums, selling million records, and being important to me and to many others. Okay, and for me, there are songs that will outlive us. I mean, Purple Rain, probably some people will not know who wrote Purple Rain in 100 years, but Purple Rain will still be there because it's just the perfect ballad to enter a concert. I mean, even Eric Clapton did his version on it. So, yeah, and also in his like live, how he arranged the band. He had different kind of setups because he was not only, you know, the piano player and the guitar player and the Prince that we know from his solo career, but there was like a way how to get there. Prince got hired as a, you know, session player to play the piano in a studio, and he obviously did very well because he was booked again, and he said, okay, I can also try to play little guitar. And then, you know, the studio owner found out about, man, this guy can literally play many instruments, including drums, including bass, and I think even some brass instruments. Somewhere I read like 27 instruments. I have no idea how many. And that is an interesting thing. If you work with somebody that can literally be a one-man show. It's a strange thing to play with somebody like that in a band, because you know you are good, but your boss is also good. I had that myself too. On the other hand, nobody is the best at everything. So everybody has its own specialties. But being able to fulfill and realize your own vision in the studio is a powerful tool to get production that is spot on the way you like it. And that is what Prince, I think, always was aiming at, to get to the perfect, well, result in a way. His shows, his visuals, his arrangements, his sound choices. And okay, we are only covering guitars here, but me personally, I was even more interested in the keyboards back then, because these were the days where keyboards had just offered the latest, hottest new sounds on the planet, stuff that you have never heard before. The Art of Noise, British band, and all that stuff. And Prince was somebody being at the forefront of using sounds. Okay, and that's probably the starting point for looking into Prince and his gear and his guitar side. Which is funny. This is like, well, this is not like, this is a Telecaster, but from a German brand, Hohner. And this was his main guitar. I don't know if this was his first guitar, but you see him playing that guitar all the time. And I think there's one concert, was it at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame concert, when he was playing My Guitar Gently Weeps with, you know, all the Tom Petty's and Jeff Lynne, Electric Light Orchestra, let's say the rock guys. He was doing the outro solo of While My Guitar Gently Weeps on this. And this is where you can tell that he made a statement. I mean, he did several statements, but he made a statement on the guitar. And the story goes that in, was it Guitar Player or, you know, any of these guitar magazines, they put everybody on the list but forgot him. And I guess this was giving him the energy to go out and show the world what time it is. So, well, he did. And he, if you don't know that performance, watch it. It is a statement. Okay, he's not Yngwie Malmsteen, but he makes his points with the right notes at the right place. So, you know, we cannot underestimate also his guitar playing as for his message that he delivers. Also the Purple Rain solo, you know, I play a few more notes because that's my thing, but the statement he does is killer, you know. So that's always something. He knows how to make something sound and shine. Okay, the gear. This is the Hohner HG490, or the Mad Cat. I don't know why this is a cat, but it's actually a pretty traditional Telecaster. Slightly different bridge though compared to a vintage style Tele. So you know, this is the typical, how is it called, ashtray with only 3 double saddles with brass, authentic, vintage country, all good. So the Hohner guys went for a different bridge. But let's listen to what this guitar sounds like. Come on, doesn't matter. Okay. So this is full clean in the middle. Okay, let's start with the bridge. Okay, all my pedals here have a ground loop with. Okay, forget it. The in-between position is this. Okay. Yeah, it's a telly and it sounds a little bit different. Let's have the vintage telly. The vintage telly is maybe not as pristine in a way. Just. I mean, vintage. Okay, in between. And the neck. To me, vintage is vintage, and the Hohner is slightly more modern. So. Man, it's so much hum here. This comes from the pedal setup, which is not well organized. I try to have isolated power outlets here, but you know, sometimes things work, sometimes don't. Besides the telly, he also played other guitars. He had an Auerswald, cymbal guitar. It's probably, one of his most iconic guitars. Some Rickenbackers. Here we can see some guitars. You know, the cymbal guitar. Then there's a Dave Rossen cloud guitar, which is that white one. There's a Strat, and there's of course the Hohner that I just had. Looking at the pedals, there's a metal zone. I was searching for mine. It disappeared. Too many pedals somewhere. The Flanger, I don't have the BF2 like he has, but I have a Ibanez similar kind of device. SD1 I do have here. DS2, I have the DS1. And the heavy metal is somewhere and disappeared. I don't know what happened to my pedals. The metal pedals have gone. I don't know where they are. Micro amp is basically a booster, and then we see a crybaby and a modulation modeler by line 6, which is the blue pedal, and a Mesa Boogie MK2, which was my amp for many years. Look at this. This is me, young Thomas, and where's my finger? It's the other side. Okay. See, this is my Mesa Boogie. And by the way, this was the shittiest Fender Stratocaster I ever played. This was my first real Fender, and it sucked. And besides that, it's a luxury Fender. This Strat is the one that I have on the other side, which was the one with a special rotary switch to have different pickup combinations. I was keen on getting all the different sounds from the Strat. Yeah, okay. I haven't changed much in guitars. My hair has changed and my face too. But this is me being probably 15, 16. Yeah, anyway. So I'm familiar with the amp that he played a lot, and he changed to the MK3 later, but he started out on the Mesa Boogie MK2, which the Mark II I was very familiar with. Good. So basically, that's a killer Fender style, clean tone, and a pretty high gain overdrive sound. This was something special. So, okay, I switched off because of all these, because of all the noise. Let me see in the chat what's going on. No, it would be an evening with true showmanship. Yeah, showman. I'm not doing the Prince, and neither the Jimmy, and I'm not smashing or burning any guitars. Okay, then we have Blackmore, which was last episode. The Purple Rain solo on a Les Paul is also good. Yeah, but listen, live versions. There are so many great versions of Purple Rain by Prince and by a lot of other players. This song, I love it too. I love it to play it. It's on our set list. Why? I choose it because it's one of the best ballads. You know, it's, yeah, you can hear it at the end, which will, of this episode, it will be the outro song of this episode because it's the best outro song ever. Okay, what else can we see in the comments here? Doing pick research. Well, there's a lot of different guitar picks. I'm not sure what Prince was playing. Was he playing? Anybody knows? Was it Fender Extra Heavy or something? I believe. And 11 strings. Okay. And how many instruments he would play? Somebody wrote here 27 instruments. Yeah, I have no idea. 27 instrument keyboards, drums, bass, guitars, whatever counts as an instrument. Okay, let's go back for the gear and how to work with gear in a, let's say, innovative way like Prince did. Here I can find. He was playing celluloid medium picks. Celluloid? You guys remember me talking about different materials, different style of plastics, and my organic material, and celluloid is actually was the stuff that was used on pickguards. This is plastic now, I can tell, but in the 50s they had celluloid, and celluloid is kind of a first incarnation of plastic, Kunststoff in German, and there is something about celluloid. Well, every material has a different resonance to it, has a different feel in the hands, and it sounds great. So good choice. And he was playing GHS Boomer's medium, 11 to 50. Well, I don't know, on this guitar, maybe it's even 9s or 10s. It could be 10s. Okay, looking at the Prince sound, and there's different type of players. We are talking about the 80s. There are these, rack systems, Steve Lukather. I have a Bradshaw switching system and things player. But we could see Prince was using a pedal board. He was using pedals. And I think there is a reason for that, because he could have easy access to something that is inspiring without being too technical. So when you have inspiring pedals, you just connect them together and you end up with something that inspires you, and you can go with the flow and you can record. If you are in a studio situation and your gear is like the most complex, elaborated switchy gear thing, you can get stuck somewhere. And I think having the workflow in the studio is a key ingredient to have good results, because when you work in a studio and you keep the flow, this flow will get you through the guitar track and will get you to another guitar track and will inspire you to make another layer of guitars, and then you come back and go back to the synths, and then you change the synths line. So the way Prince was doing the recording in the studio was a lot about making guitar arrangements, and therefore having different sounds is crucial. I can show you something super easy. No, let's start with a typical guitar setup. Okay, so think of a pedal board. I have the wah pedal. I have a whammy pedal. Now talking about, let me talk about some overdrive pedals. This is a Blues Driver clone, but very good. Yeah, and the amp here is set to kind of clean. So that's kind of position 1 overdrive or gain stage. SD1. Okay, and then comes distortion. Okay. I wonder why this fucking power supply wasn't that noisy at the beginning when I set it up. Then suddenly it appears. One effect which is also very Prince. Let me plug in the Flanger. That's a typical one. I wanted to save the battery because this one has battery, so it does not hum. Hello. I'm not sure, but I believe he played, or was it Wendy and Lisa? Wendy, probably it was a Electric Mistress. I don't know. It sounds like a chorus, but listen to this. This is a flanger. Well, those effects are kind of close. Ah, by the way, like and subscribe. I made this cup only to remind myself that you guys should like and subscribe to this channel. You know how this works. We love it. I love my tea. So the flanger, but what he also does a lot is when he has this kind of spacey overdrive sounds and you know, all that stuff. He uses that as the extra freaking option. This was like the mild clean setting. But okay. So you get the picture. All these effects can give you a lot of different characters, from clean to slightly overdriven to spacey to a sound statement. The chaos that only the guitar can do that way. Some synth sounds can get close, but not like that. And that was the clever thing about Prince, having the palette of the guitar tones under control. Now, let me show you the absolutely minimum contrast. This is straight into the mixing console, even without any effect. So I could kind of simulate. Can I? Yeah. I could simulate a studio sound by plugging this straight. Is the cable long enough? We will find out if something. Yeah. So, guitar, wah, straight into my mixer here. I give it a little bit more gain, so you have. So that also is a sound. One little thing that you should not forget is to have a little buffer. I use now the flanger as a buffer. Put this in front of the wah. Ouch. Excuse me. So this is the mixing desk flat, no EQ, nothing, but the pedal, the flanger, but it's not even in use on bypass, but this has a buffered bypass. This is electronic bypass, not true bypass. And that brings the guitar pickups alive. Maybe now you can hear that. And that's also a sound, you know. An amp is a sound. Using an amp, effects, pedals is a sound. Anything can be a sound if you use it the right way. And this is what he has done. Okay, you get the picture. So let me show you one little thing more with an amp setup. It does not need to be that elaborated. I don't even need a wah. Let's keep the whole more reduced. That might be better for the noise. Amp. Okay, this is now amp 1. Okay, I'm directly in there. Okay, makes sense. Stop. I wanted to have the wah. Let's go back for the wah, 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 wah. I'm... Huh? Yeah, of course, guitar. Now I want to use the wah, but I want to use the wah into the amp 1. Okay, that's a different job here. So this goes into the wah. Okay, and where's my cable on this side? It's a bit messy, sorry guys. Takes a little to follow. Where are we going? We are going here. Okay, now I'm back into this complete... I don't need that anymore. So this should do it. Okay. So that setup is now the wah and the amp 1. Okay. I show you something because he is an arranger. He's arranging sounds, but he's also arranging chords. We all know that's the opening chord for Kiss. But underneath, there's another chord, but it's at a very low volume. Listen to this. Okay, and that's little things that he's doing that we all don't hear at first glance, because his guitar recordings are arrangements. In the studio, these are studio arrangements, experimenting with slightly different sounds here, sometimes, maybe something more overdriven, something more clean here, and then they all work together, and having separate guitar tracks with different kind of flavors end up in a nice, huge arrangement. And that's what we're listening to on the records. And of course, live, he had several guitar players like Kat Dyson to do those arrangements in a nice live version. So there is a lot of different nice guitars that you can find in Prince's guitar arrangements. Another thing which is killer, maybe we can listen to that. Let's Go Crazy. That riff, but that's the bridge before the chorus comes. And it's overdriven because it's like more a rock tune. Let's listen to that. This is polychords. It is using two chords on top of each other, and it ends up in being very, very colorful chords that you don't hear at first glance, but it's like, what is this? And I believe he could do all that stuff because he had a jazz background. So he knew when he was stacking these notes, which is, it's F and C sharp at the same time. I mean, it's like, what would that be? This is F, but over C sharp. That's kind of a C sharp major 7. But, it's getting even more colorful because here he has the 5th, while the other notes are playing. Plus, both sounds create overtones because they are overdriven. These are the colors that make him different from, punk or anything like that, even though the energy is similar to that kind of music here and there. He has so many different genius combinations of things. And that's what I really admire about his production side. But, that was just an example. If you would go into his records and listen to all the details that the keyboard sounds, the drum sounds, it's all outstanding. Every new Prince CD or vinyl was a new statement, was a new trip, and that's for me almost unheard of after him. So that's my kudos to Prince. Let me see if we have any more comments in the chat here. Casein, they are talking picks. I have tried casein picks. Casein is what is it called? It's in milk. Casein, milk, protein. It's a protein material. It's very. It tries to be this, but it's not. It's very good, but it's not. And I tried. These picks sound warm. Yeah, anyway, let's read the next comment here. Svenny Gallus, as usual, he is always on the chat. Basically made of cheese, yeah. But I have buffalo horn picks. Yeah, I have all that stuff. Blah, blah, blah. I really like celluloid picks. Yep, there we are. Prince liked celluloid as well. You know, celluloid is the material that we can have on the table tennis balls. If you don't know what it is, that's the material. Unfortunately, in the wrong shape. Otherwise, you could simply flatten one of those table tennis balls and use it as a pick. But yeah. Yeah, John Pierce, they are talking picks. What's going on here? Are you bored or what? Black House picks, home plate ones made of ABS. Yeah, and the blue ones are made of PMMA. Here is a blue one made of PMMA. And I have also polycarbonate, see-through and black, and the ABS. They are all different. They are all good and all different. I'm looking for, here is, this is what you want. Teasing you all guys. So this is all home plate picks. And these are the ABS ones. Yeah, with my signature on it. Okay. No, maybe we can try the blue one with Blackmore signature on it. Okay, yeah. Anyway, the pick episode. I think I've done a pick episode on the Academy of Tone like 2 years ago, where I tried all different kind of picks from my collection. And I have a big collection because I know how much picks do matter. So, somebody writes, my first, Carsten Göke, first contact to Prince was Rockpalast Live 3 in the morning from Syracuse. Amazing, yeah, of course. Yeah, Prince. If you haven't heard Prince music, go back and find some of his music and you will find a tune that you like, no matter what's your background. Because he could do anything from like heavy rock to funk, tightest funk, to jazzy, to acoustic, to such a huge range of styles that he was doing. And yeah, true genius. That's all I can say. And now I would love to introduce Kat Dyson. We've been friends for maybe 20 years. I don't even remember how long we go back. And I found a very old video of us that we had at the Frankfurt show when I was still with the Houston Kettner guys, and she was also a Houston Kettner artist. She brought the amp one when I did the amp one on every stage on this planet. She's now touring with Zucchero, the Italian stadium filler, so to speak, and Cyndi Lauper, and some more. We talk about all the musical projects she's doing, but she has insights, and yeah, we had a nice conversation. Let's start with a jam track that we have done in Frankfurt many, many years ago. We don't have that?
In the interview.
Ah, it's in the interview. Then let's start with a jam track that we did this year at NAMM. Well, we always jam because it's a ritual. And here comes the thing. If you play with Kat, you have to groove. And I mean, shredding is one thing, but groove is the other thing. And sometimes I have the feeling that we should be more groovy and appreciate the groove. Especially we hear guitar whittlers. Groove is exciting. Okay, check it out when we met at NAMM. Little clip. So, Kat is always a pleasure. So, please enjoy my interview with Kat and don't miss the very end of this episode after the interview when I play my Purple Rain version. And it is always different. I don't know which one Lucas choose, but I gave him some Christmas versions where I throw in the Holy Night, Silent Night. You can play Freude schöner Gott, Götterfunken on top of that. You can play anything, and it's just such a great song. But now enjoy Kat Dyson. See you soon. Cheers.
Officially, I have to tell people here, Kat Dyson, she is a very special friend of mine, a super killer guitar player, vocalist. We go back many years. You are the person that brought the Amp-1 into the Royal Albert Hall first. This award goes to Kat.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and today we want to talk a little bit about something from the past, the one and only Prince, a very, very important figure in the pop music, rock music, and whatever music in general. And Kat, you played with Prince, right?
Yes, sir.
What years were this? Like in the 90s, I remember.
Well, you know, we had musical interactions from 1996 to 2005, actually. Part of it was, you know, rehearsing, recording, touring. And then I moved into Los Angeles and did the Magic Hour television show with Sheila E. So The touring part stopped, but then, we all got together as one big united band and did this thing in 2005 called the NAACP Awards, which is the big awards in the Black community. And they gave him a Vanguard Award, like a Lifetime Achievement Award. And that night we broke records because it was 12 minutes of music with no commercials.
Wow.
No, on like network televisions, and everybody was there. Oprah was there, you know what I mean? Like, she got an award that same night. And that night was like a magical night because after the show, there was an after party at one of his houses in LA. And of course we jammed and we played for that, and like everybody was there. But at the award show that night, because so many people were getting awards, like Angela Bassett, who plays like the mother of Wakanda, she, helped present his award. So she was there. The Obamas, Barack Obama had just become a senator. He and Michelle were there. You know what I mean? They were all like a party. So, Oprah came to the party, and Spielberg and all the, Black movie stars, and, like Hollywood was there. And that night, Joni Mitchell and Herbie Hancock got together and talked about that album that ended up winning the Grammy the next year or two after as best album, because it was him talking about, and Prince was like, hey, we should do something together. And he's on that record. He's not credited as being on that record, but he is on that record. And the brainchild of the idea started at that party. This is, what I witnessed. So a lot of things happened around Prince. I mean, he, like, so many men that I work with in the business that I love and respect, I like to say he's my brother, like you're my brother. Like, Zucchero is my blues brother, even though, we have a professional employee-employer relationship, and I have a professional relationship where, you are my sponsor, and you are the creator of this beautiful line of guitar reinforcement equipment over my lifetime that's helped, actually, I want to say help keep me in the game, because I was able to get the tones that I needed, and I didn't have to break my brain for it and work too hard. And when I fell into, what do I do? I could reach out to you, and you didn't say, why are you calling me?
No, I mean, Kat, we go back for 20 years or even longer. I don't even remember. I mean, I remember us at the Houston Kettner Days Factory, and even jamming with you and Carl Frierson. Every time we meet, it's a fantastic vibe. That's something that I really appreciate and admire with you. You always come in the room and you change the vibe in a very positive way. And I think that's, in this world, we have so many, as you said, business relationships or different kind of relationships, and you seem to have a special way of treating people that makes me feel safe, secure, easy approach. So for me, it's a no-brainer. When I see you calling me, I'm not afraid. It's like whatever there is, it's not a problem. Even if there would be a problem, I'm happy to help, because it's not like, and that's something, knowing you for so many years, that's something that sticks with me. I have the memory when you were in Luxembourg like 2 years ago, we were driving. I took you to this very studio with the Zucchero band in my father's
studio where the magic happens, y'all.
And it was so fucking hot that summer day, and the air conditioning in my father's car was nearly not working. I mean, here in Germany, we don't need it that much, but that day we needed it. But anyway, you stayed cool, even though it was so hot in the car. So, all that kind of things I do remember, and it's part of a beautiful journey that we had so far. But before we get too much distracted, what was the relationship and the vibe you had with Prince? I mean, I never met this guy, but I'm a fan. As you can see, I have tons of vinyls that I bought when I was young. And for me, Prince was the hottest shit. Whenever there was a new Prince album, I had to buy it because it was the highest standard of production. It was the hot shit. It was like, wow, what is he doing in the drum programming? What is he doing next? What is the next surprise? And so there must be a spirit or a mentality behind that. What is your experience with that? Living in that Prince world for a while? I don't know.
Well, it was many things because no individual is a monolith for anything. So we all have different sides. We all have different energies. We all have things that drive us. We all have things that motivate us. We all have curiosities. I mean, he was all of those things, but, he was individually and, unabashedly in the pursuit of the highest form of music that he could, manufacture at all times. Yeah. He was just there at all times. That's my experience. I mean, I was hired to pretty much just be a shadow guitar player because, by being a musician and listening to his music, he multi-tracked everything. So, though, one wishes one could play all the parts at once, you just can't. So myself and Mike Scott, when I was there singularly with just me and him, or when it was the three of us, we gave him the freedom, I think. The point is for us to be there, to give him the freedom to then play bass if he wanted, play keyboards, to just go out front and be a singer and vibe with the crowd if he wants. Or, you know what I mean? Or like walk away and just let us play. Yeah. He did all things. So he was an employee. He was a teacher. He was a mentor. He was my brother. He had a crazy sense of humor, He gave me a lot of wisdom, not only in music, but in life, by the way he saw things and the way he viewed the world and his forward vision of what the industry was going to become. And he was right about everything. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when I got there to audition, he had received tapes in a package that I had previously sent to Sheila E. of myself and Rhonda, because myself and Rhonda made the connection with Sheila E. at the Mesa show in Germany.
in Frankfurt. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's where we made our connection with her. We were there. We were demonstrating for Godin guitars, and it was
From
me and
Canada, right?
and we had a DAT tape. The DAT tape had the drums on it at the time. And, you know, we were just doing our thing, and Sheila comes walking in and goes, oh, but we had met her at the NAMM show before, but NAMM, you're running. But at the Met, it's
you're more relaxed.
Yeah. And she came in the room, and then, you know, Jennifer Batten came in the room, and Jennifer and I met, and then we've become friends over the years. So, like I said, Sheila came to me and said, hey, Sony Records wants me to do this record with female musicians. And I'm talking to Wendy and Lisa, and I would love if you guys would join us and, you know, be a part of this project. So we sent her this package. And the Mesa is when? March, usually?
Yeah, it was March. In the spring, before spring, between winter and March was the Mesa,
well, by the time May rolled around, we get a call. He is disbanded the first, you know, iteration of NPG, and he's reforming. And Sheila's like, Prince is looking for blah, 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 and I sent your package to him. If he likes it, you'll hear from him. And we were like this.
Of course. It's like...
We were in Montreal like this, like... And Rhonda got the call first. She went in and auditioned first, and, you know, and then I came a few weeks later. And, you know, inside that package was me and Rhonda and a drummer playing some Hendrix stuff on a television show. So he's like, okay, let's see if this is live or if it's Memorex. So he got on the drums, and the song was Jimi Hendrix Freedom.
Yeah. And he
played drums.
Fuck, yeah.
So my audition with him was like a jam to see if I really had those styles down that he, you know, okay, you got a tape, but that's a moment in time. Let's see how we can do this. So it started out as like, you know, you go to the jam sessions in your local town. It started out very insular. And, you know, then we're in rehearsals and he's standing next to me and he shows me a part and he's like, you got that? You know, I had to come up with a way to write it in shorthand because he wasn't letting anybody record the rehearsals at that time because someone took their rehearsal tapes, turned them into sellable materials, and were selling them.
Yeah.
So that he fired or something. That's the rumor.
Yeah.
And I was, oh my gosh, okay. So yeah. So I had to write it down quickly, you know, look at his hand, write it, you know. So like I said, you know, he was many, many things. So he wasn't just, but then, you know, when he had a sense of humor, he would joke you, he would clown you, it'd be fun, you know. We were in New York after a show, and we got the chance to see Patti LaBelle. It was after the show. I forget, it was either Patti's show or Cindy's show because I played with Cyndi Lauper before him.
Right. Yeah.
And I was under contract with Cindy actually when the opportunity came. And Cindy had just gotten married, and she says, "Oh, I'm gonna stop touring for a while. I'm gonna have a family. So, you know, if you get an offer, you know," and I told her who it was from. She's like, "Oh, well, that's my friend," because she's one of the few people in the world that he said yes to. You can copy my song.
Oh, really?
She did. She did When You Were Mine.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I went and I auditioned, and we all happened to be in New York, and he got called to visit with Cindy and Patti LaBelle, and he said, "Can you come with me?" And I'm in the room after the show with the two of them that are like maybe people that he loves and respects, and I'm just sitting there like this, like, why am I here? You know, so, you know, like little personal moments. I mean, you know, you know, when we, you know, go to movies or we go to a bowling alley, or, you know, he would just, you know, rent things and we just play basketball, or, you know, he was listening to a lot of James Brown and was like, listen to that part, and listen to, and we're listening to Sly and the Family Stone, and he got a hold of a mix that had Freddie's guitar over here, and Sly's guitar here, and the interplay, and just listening, and then him asking me who I listened to, and and I told him about me listening to John Scofield and Alan Holdsworth and Jeff Lee Johnson, and he knew those guys, but he really listened to them much, and then you listen to him, he's like, well, you listen to those guys, I hope you're not bored here. And I'm like, huh? Because complex music, and somehow he felt like, I'm like, how could I be bored here? Crazy.
No way. I mean, when we talk Prince, there's something about groove and funk. Okay, that's maybe something that the Germans don't know that much. But I mean, you talk about James Brown and Sly and the Family Stone and all that kind of super important, great music. There's some energy about funk music and about the groove that is so essential. And I think that's what I personally loved about Prince's music. I could always feel the funkiness even in songs that were not meant to be funky. There was always,
a drive.
There was a drive, and this is.
Played so many instruments. He also had what I think is an underappreciated orchestral side, because if you listen to some of the things that he wrote, once he and Maite got together and she did dance and ballet, and the things that he wrote in the ballads, and then how he got together with Claire Fisher and fleshed out that stuff and added strings to it, and it's so lush and so different because his idea of chordal structure was just so individual to him. When he asked me when I first got there, what are your favorite records and of mine?
Yeah.
And Thomas, you know me, I don't have time to start to think about how to formulate a line. So when people ask me stuff, I tell them the truth. Sometimes it's popular, sometimes it's not. And I told him, the soundtrack records, Graffiti Bridge was one of my favorite records. And the back, oh my God. It's when he just broke the mold and put his whole self into that project rather than, the music industry. And I was talking to one of my students about this. The music industry, which is the machine built around our creativity, tends to break us up into parts and pieces that they can understand, that they can put on a shelf and sell as one thing. Well, you started out doing acoustic guitar, so you should be an acoustic guitar player, and that's what I can sell. It's like,
they put a label on you, they put you in the shelf.
Yeah, the public is not able to understand that you can do everything. They can only see one thing. It's like, come on. A big corporation like Procter and Gamble makes all kinds of products. It's like, stop. But they're so busy looking at if it's a hit song and it's in that and it sounds like that, then for you as that person to get another hit, it has to be exactly like that. And they box us in. I don't think anybody truly that has had a song that has impacted the world starts out by thinking, I have to write this for that person, blah, blah, blah. It starts out with an inspiration. It starts out with a feeling. It starts out with a situation. It starts out with a lyric. It starts out with a melody. It doesn't start. There are people that are, sitting there now saying, okay, I'm going to market this and I'm going to write this for that guy. But I'm talking about the artist.
Yeah, the true artist.
True artists represent the songs. It doesn't come to them like that.
Yeah, that's the thing, what I admired at the Beatles, because, they had their Love Me Do, then they had, the Cloud Number 9, some experimental stuff. They had all kinds of different colors back in the late 60s up until the 70s. And again, that's something that Prince also did for me in the 80s And when I was young, he was giving me the hope from that non-boxed artist. Even back in those days, when Prince was selling his records, a lot of other bands had a very restricted formula because probably the music industry, and I don't know.
Into these contracts, these guys force artists, once they sign them, if you don't do a record like this, guess what? We're not going to promote it. It's going to tank, going to make you feel like you're not talented. But a lot of that is market manipulation, and I'm just saying it for what it is. That's what it is. These guys that think that, oh, I'm an artistic director and I can tell you what to do with your art and what to make it. But no, I came to your attention because I had something. Before I met you, I had something.
Yeah.
I came along, not the other way around.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this was my Prince experience, to get the freshness of different influences, of different styles with any of those records. You know, I mean, there's a personality that shines through every record, and there's his voice and all that stuff. But on the other hand, he made changes, and these kind of surprises were always so exciting to me, because you never knew what the next record will sound like. And I'm not saying AC/DC is not a great band. AC/DC is meat and potatoes, and you know what you get, and they're doing a great job too. But because I believe that they actually want to be like that, you know, so it makes sense in their world. But with Prince, it was so much surprise and so much new colors discovering. You know, when I was at the age when I was listening to that, I didn't have all the American background information on funk and where he's got his influences from, and jazz and stuff like that. This was, I learned about that stuff later, after I heard that, you know, and then I was digging deeper into that. And this for me is still, I kind of have to thank him for being an eye opener and for being tough enough to fight against the industry. And I know that he was turning down deals and creating his own. And then there was the symbol thing where he couldn't use his name anymore, and legal shit and all that stuff. And this has probably all to do with the kind of freedom that he was fighting for, which brought out this kind of colorful records.
Well, that's when I came into the band, during the emancipation period. And when I got to Paisley, the record was, it was 3 albums, and it was pretty much done. And he was done with Warner's, and he was going to do what he was going to do. And that he actually invited me to play on it is a blessing, because he's a guitar player. He didn't need me to do anything, but he let me participate, which was very generous, you know.
And how was it working with him? I mean, he's probably a perfectionist that can play everything himself, and he has maybe a clue about, I want this that way, and or was he like, okay, I have this, what is your idea? Was he open to this eventually, or?
It was both. He wants certain things. But then on the song Dreaming About You, which is on Emancipation, he heard me playing a pattern on my acoustic guitar, and he's like, I want you to add that to that.
Mm-hmm.
Or, on a song called The Love We Make, I was doing some type of voicing, and my fingers are a bit longer than his. They're skinny. And he's like, I like that E minor. Go in and put that voicing on this. You know what I mean? So, and then, but for the live things, for the live, the way he would run through, like we would do a medley of his hits. He's like, okay, I want you to play that part because I'm going to play this part. And together it sounded like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he was very specific, but then he could be open too, At one, he asked me, if this were your show, what would you add to it? So, and everybody was a little bit hesitant to speak. And he's like, well, what would you do? And he knew that I would just say what was in my head. It was like there was always a part of Cyndi Lauper's show where she would, do something acoustically, where it's just her to the crowd. I said, well, why not pull out a guitar and just sing to the crowd? And he laughed and he joked me in front of everybody. But then a few months later, a few tours later, actually, he started to do Little Red Corvette on acoustic. And
everybody freaked out.
Break. I went back to Cyndi because he had changed the band, because he would do that. He would have a lot of guitar players. He would change, then he would come in and just do it by himself. And I was in Canada doing shows with Cyndi, and he had a car sent for me from Toronto to take me to see him do his thing. And he set me in the middle. And he's just playing acoustic guitar. In other words, yeah, I did it, and the people love it. Because at first he thought, he was saying, that's going to be boring. That's not exciting. It's not this. It's not that. Then he did this thing in the round, and he pulled these big, big songs out so people could just hear the words and the melody. And he did it. So like I said, he could be very specific or very generous. It depended on the situation,
Yeah, of course. And I think somebody that is not like that would limit himself. And I think he was having so much input, and I totally understand that sometimes it takes a while, like the story you just told about, the acoustic guitar and the idea, but being ready and open to this kind of influences is, I can feel this when I listen to these records. I don't know. Another question, one other topic. How was he about guitar tone and sounds? I mean, I know he used some simple pedals, and the way I think he used those were kind of, in my opinion, hey, there's a cool flanger. This sounds very bizarre. That's good. Make it even more extreme and make a statement with a pedal, and then it sounds like $1 million sound, but it's actually $150 pedal that makes the sound. And,
well, you should actually do a interview with Takumi, with the guy who was his tech for years and years and years, because they did a lot of work, a lot of, experimentation that I've witnessed. And then it's funny, when I was with him, he'd be like, okay, go to the NAMM show and come back and tell me what you saw that's new. What you see? And when I first got with him, I was actually using Line 6 stuff. But it was like Line 6 when they had that programmable, it was like a Fender Twin. But
it's the AX2, it was called.
Yeah, and I was getting all these sounds from this one amp and that one little pedal. He just walked over and looked at it and like, all those sounds are coming out of there, because me, I was always, looking for a way to not have to carry so much heavy stuff. to not, I mean, I'm a girl, and it's like, I don't always have a roadie, and I was always looking for a variety of tones and a way to go in and program without it being too much and too many steps and too big. Because at one point, I had like 2 storages, and one of them was just pedals. I was like the Marcos of pedals. I was terrible. Because, all of this stuff, I was like, ooh, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I was using that. And they came out with the cabinets that were like monitor cabinets, because he was like, I don't want to see any amps on stage. I don't want to see anything. So we were on a plexiglass stage at one of those tours, and he did a drop down and put the speakers down like they were monitors, so they were hitting back up at me, so I could still get the overtones and all that stuff without the amps being far away, and I could still get the feedback. And so we found ways to do things, but he found it interesting that I was so much into the planning and programming and sound design. I was way into it before I got to him anyway, because I was always into it, even, from my younger days, because, half of the "you sound like a girl" is, sometimes girls not understanding the parameters and the limitlessness of the amp to guitar relationship. You got to learn as a guitar player, not necessarily a girl or a guy, but if you don't know your stuff and you're depending on somebody, can somebody help me? I was like, I find out for myself. So he just thought it was interesting that I, went in and, whatever he had, like one day we were messing around and he did a tone and I opened up the line 6 and I went,
okay, you know how to do it. Yeah.
And he had this big pedal board with all these, boss pedals, this and that.
Yeah.
The big amp he was using and all, and I had this one thing, and it was like,
yeah, smart. Yeah, but again, I think he was experimenting, and he was, from what I hear on the records, I can tell, or at least I can imagine that he was inspired by sounds. So when he was discovering something, he used that as a tool to create a new color in his palette, and then maybe use it at a certain part in his arrangement, or maybe it even triggered some ideas, So
I misspoke. It wasn't line 6. It was Rocktron.
Rocktron. Okay. Correction.
Because line came after. So yeah, it was Rocktron that had programmable stuff. And they ended up going under and disappearing, but the Rocktron stuff was really cool because it came out with individual things first, and really pro stuff. Yeah, it was Rocktron. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries. Okay, back to playing with him. Is there any more specific memories that you have, like a funny thing on stage? I mean, I had things when I was in a band opening up for Michael Jackson, where Jennifer was playing. We were the opening band, and then we had like 3 girl singers, rappers, and they gave me a guitar solo when they could change dress. And then, they knew, they were happy that I could go on and noodle. And so they took another 3 minutes, which was me in front of the Michael Jackson audience whittling for 5 minutes, when they had a good day. I don't know how Prince organized the shows. Was this even tight?
He did that. He would let the band do solos, and at the time that it was me and Mike Scott, I also had the Godin guitar that was a MIDI controller.
Yeah.
So, and he would just tell me, do something different than Mike. So it was the intro for Do Me Baby.
Mm-hmm.
It was all floaty and everything. And, everybody would take a little bit of a solo and he would change clothes. And I remember at the Hollywood Bowl, I chose a flute sound. And a particular instrument really let me bend it and and make it guitar phrases, but with the flute sound and the trills and stuff like that. And when he came out, he looked at me like, for real?
Yeah.
And he's like, do that every night. Cool. So yeah, he would definitely, I think there's footage on the internet of some of that stuff where he would just let us play it, and he would go and clothes. Yeah, he did that.
Yeah, super cool. I have to check out even more of that old internet stuff. I mean, back in the 90s, they started to record, but not as much as today. Today, everybody has a phone, and you can see snippets of everything.
Were so proactive on the internet that they might have pulled all that footage off. I don't know. It used to be there. I don't know if it's there now.
Yeah. So the plans for your year is intensive touring with Zucchero, touring the world again.
Yeah, touring the world again. And I've also, started to develop relationships and friendships here in LA with Corey Henry. I was able to play with him on his church experience. I don't know if you know him. He's an unbelievable multi-keyboardist, organist, vocalist. And he has this thing he does once a month here in LA at a theater in Inglewood called the Church Experience. And it's gospel music, but done in like a new way. And I don't know if you know his material, but he'll take a pop song, and because he's an organ player primarily, he'll just, gospelify it. You know what I mean? So I got a chance to work with him, and I've been working along with Sput and those guys in Ghost Note. I get to play with them. And of course, with Nikki Glaspie, we get together and we have a band called Supersonic Shorties that I get to play with them. So I get to play with my friends, and I'm also part of a recording project called Bella Brown and the Jealous Lovers, which is kind of like an Amy Winehouse, kind of Sharon Jones, back in the day type of, Sam and Dave, Otis Redding, kind of vintage.
Old school vintage soul.
Yeah, vintage soul that Carol Hatchett and Dan Pearson. Carol Hatchett was with Bette Midler for many years, and it's getting a lot of airplay in the UK on the radio and stuff like that. So, we're probably doing some touring. So I get a chance to play with my friends as well, and do, many tours and recording projects and stuff like that. So I worked with Divinity Rocks on her children's record, and that got us a Grammy nomination, So, I'm blessed, man. I get a chance to work with my friends on projects. And, the Zucchero team is like my big Italian family. You know what I mean?
So, of course. And there's nothing like Italians when it comes to family, right?
Yeah, that's right.
They're so close. Here in Europe, the Italian people are the family people. Family is everything. And they're always so warm-hearted. And so, I love Italians just for that.
And I'm sure you saw the last show, our background vocalist, Oma Jali. I got a chance to work with her on her record, and she's coming out with some new stuff. And, she's doing like totally like rock, you know what I mean? So even inside that family, then, our keyboard player is Nicola Peruc. He has a band called Savannah Funk, which is like a funk kind of Italian type thing, but he's still kind of got that Thomas Dolby a little bit, laid back keys, it's a little bit of everything. And, the collabs that happen through these friendships keep my life just beautifully rich and diversified. And it's always creative. I try to always be creative. And, anybody asks me something, I'll say, yeah, I can try that.
Yeah. And everything you do has a positive vibe. I have to, I follow you on Instagram and, on other socials, and I can sometimes you have a post about rather philosophical things and spiritual things, which I also really do enjoy, because it's good. It's good to get more than just the sheer music. It's all in the music, but sometimes it's good to read something or to have a few other thoughts, and that makes for me, it makes that package complete. And it's all I can say. Every time I see you, makes me feel good. I'm in a good vibe. And
but the energy attracts energy, and your energy is just as lovely and just as wonderful, because I've been going to the NAMM show for decades, and not everybody is as open and as welcoming and not treating me like, oh, there's this girl who doesn't know anything about the product. And when I came to you guys, when you were with using Kettner, and I didn't have all the right technical words to say, but you liked my enthusiasm enough to to start to educate me on tone. And I came and I was like, I don't know what you do, but I like this thing and I like this pedal and I like that.
Yeah.
Do this and that, and you just, instead of laughing at me and saying, "Go away, little girl," you opened your wealth of knowledge on top of just being a great guitar player. So energy attracts energy, and before we spread that good energy around, the only thing that neutralizes darkness is light. So I try to bring light, and I try to look for light.
Exact same thing here.
Even in a pitch dark room, you turn on a light, it's going to happen. But in a bright room, if there's a dark corner, there's still light. So, and that's my living philosophy in general. I mean, I work with an all-girls organization called Black Women Rock, and it was founded on being a tribute to Betty Davis's music and to Black women who do rock in a marketplace that said you can't do that. But then there came the Tina Turners, there came the Betty Davises, there came the Chaka Khans, there came all these things. So it's all about giving the energy that's needed, breaking the mold, and letting people just be free. Because even during the pandemic, when they said the music industry wasn't essential, if it wasn't for the music industry, I think the world would have imploded. If people had nothing to listen to calm them down, put them in a better mood, make their days inside more enjoyable. I mean, somebody that worked at Fender told me they have never sold so many guitars as when people were shut and bought guitars to teach their kids and had musical moments. So to say, to try to stop the creativity, the people in power that, maybe haven't found their creativity and they want to stop this thing, you can't stop it. They can say this, and AI is a great tool. It's a great, it can be used in ways that can do things, but I don't know anybody that's going to pay hundreds of dollars to sit in a stadium to watch screens in an AI situation. I don't know anyone, because it can't make you feel the way you feel communally when you're there and energy is being shared. Because from what I gather, AI takes a lot of energy, but does it give it back?
Yeah, and I believe this
you're taking a lot, but what are you giving back?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about human beings. We are social creatures.
Absolutely.
And we like to share the positive energy. I mean, this is what you can do with a stadium. I mean, even simple things when you go, and then you guys, and the stupidest things can be, do the thing. And improvisation. I mean, it's not a random program of a computer. It is the interaction. It's a communication. When you play with other players on stage, you interact because you listen to another person. You listen to what it's coming, and that's the beauty. I don't think software can emulate a lot of things, and it might be helpful for a lot of things. I'm using AI in there as well, but the core thing, it's all about human
experience. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm taking nothing away from artists that are, using AI in a way that maybe is at the core of what they do. But at some point, you have to show the human connection of it.
Yeah.
You have to show how you're using it to amplify your human creativity.
Mm.
But, for companies to threaten human beings and say, you will all be replaced by machines. Stop.
Yeah, I mean, simple as that. But we, as humans, have also to make rules that the money greedy business people that try to restrict artists in a formula, that we fight for our freedom. freedom is the most. I mean, we go back for Jimi Hendrix, freedom. The song that you played on that tape. Jimmy knew it, and this is why we all play the guitar, because we discover that playing an instrument is a way to experience freedom. You can play that note, you can play that note, you can do that chord, you can play whatever. That frees you up, that you can express yourself with the instrument. And there's nothing to me like it. Fucking electric guitar is still magic to me. Every year I'm not getting bored. The older I get, the more I know that I don't know, but the older I get, the more happy I am, because I learned to use that instrument a little bit, knowing that some people think I'm a good player, but I cheat, I suck. The other day, I had Tim Pierce asking me how I would play this, and I, Tim, I'm just cheating, but it sounds good, So it's again, I found a human way how to deal with the whole thing, and that's even experts like Tim Pierce go like, that's impressive, and I'm just cheating, and that.
But look, cheating according to who? If our DNA is individual to us and our fingerprint is, your fingers on the same guitar may or may not produce the same tone as somebody else's fingers. And I had this discussion with Mike Scott, and I call it the sound pad. It's like your fingertip. My fingertips are skinny, but the guys who I love, their fingertips are huge, and I call that the sound pad, because they can mute, they can do a whole lot of things just in their hands, and I'm having to mute, I'm having to do other things because the physicality of my hands are different. So guitar is so adaptable that you can work your way around things and it'll fit you if you work with it. And you may or may be able to express yourself the same way as somebody else with a different type of, guys that got the big fat fingers, all the guys I love. I mean, if you look at some of the footage from Wes Montgomery, look at his hands. Look at B.B. King's hands. Look at the hands. If they picked up, a Mattel toy, it would sound like that, because those hands, it starts the physical self, and having that, and your eye-hand coordination and your brain, what it tells your hands to do, that's your style. Everybody can say, oh, Hendrix did this and he wouldn't do that and blah, blah, blah. But look at his hands, look how he did it. And look, I mean, my jazz instructor in school played left hand reverse. So I would sit in the classes and just be, and he took over Wes Montgomery's quartet. I mean, when Wes passed, he was Wes's protege, but he played left hand first. But he could play chords that even now I have to work to play those chords, because his hands were just built different, and the way he did had the guitar set up was built different, so he had access differently. I mean, Eric Gales. I mean, that stuff that guy does. For a right-hand guitar player to even think about it, you just gotta think differently. You gotta, I mean, and I've been having discussions with a lot of guitar players here in LA who do quartet guitar, because I grew up Catholic. I didn't grow up with that whole style that they learned since they were like 4, and they're playing in churches that didn't have a keyboard player. So the guitar would be the keyboard. So they got the chords, they got the melody, they play in a whole different style, and I'm having discussions with them. I'm like, dude, I need to take some lessons. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. This, just like I'm going to be studying with Jennifer to learn how to do what she does, because it's another, and I mean, I've had discussions with you, guitar is it's a universe.
Yeah. And it's endless.
And it's infinite as many people pick it up. That's another way to play it. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. It will never end. you can expand just in the direction that you decide, and that's the personal aspect of it again. And you have to be happy knowing that you don't know everything, and that you never will be able to be Alan Holdsworth
I
and
don't know everything.
all your hero.
I want to keep learning. I mean, you know, I'll give you another Prince story. We at one point started to play the song "The Cross," and he says, "You play slide and dobro." I said, "Yeah, I play a bit." So we did it one night, and I was playing slide and dobro because, you know, he had Bonnie Raitt come there and do stuff at Paisley with him. So when we do those songs, he's like, "Can you play the Bonnie part?" I'm like, "Sure." You know, I'm gonna say yes, and I'm gonna work on it, you know, until I get that part. And he actually, you know, let me play it and let me solo, and it was, you know, he's like, "Okay, now do the same solo." I'm like, "Well, I can't promise you that." Because I think his whole idea of even solos, because he sang and because he played so many instruments, I'm sure it felt like he would compose solos, not that they were necessarily just improv. They would be composed. And it all felt like he was maybe singing parts of them, you know, because his idea of a guitar solo was connected to his body and his multi-instrumentalist way in his own, you know, voice. You know, I want to say guitar is a voice extension of most guitarists, but he probably has so much stuff going on because he plays so many instruments and heard so many things at once that, you know, these solos he probably came up with were almost like string parts that are written for a symphony, or, you know, because he would start them out in a certain way. Now they might veer off at the end, but they would always start out in a very thematic way. You know? And he made me think about solo construction differently from the things he asked me to do. You know, that I thought he was joking. He's like, "Oh, I'm not joking. Play the same solo tomorrow." I'm like, I don't even remember what I did.
That's the problem of us improvisers. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
it was in the moment, and, you know, and we would have discussions about that.
Yeah, sure, but you know, for me, my most melodic solos, I usually start also in the moment. It just comes, and then there's a magic note there that starts to tell a story. And then when I have a great moment, I can feel that, and then I can this is my red line, or what's the English word in German, der rote Faden, which means this is the path you have to follow. And in the moment I do it, I can feel it. This is my story. This is where I have to go on. And sometimes when I have no idea, I have to lay down one or two tracks, listen to it, and then I know, oh, this is or crap. This is what it is. But I see what you say about structuring solos and ranging things, but that's also a mindset. I mean, you know, there are some musicians that they are great in building up and creating excitement, but they are not as melodic as other people. And it's a melodic statement to me is something that gets everybody. And that's also the beauty of some of Prince's solos, that you can tell, yeah, I know what he's saying. You know, it's a story. It is more than a lick. It is, you know, it's a statement. It's like, you know, and hey, this guy has written Purple Rain. There is nothing like that song. Everybody on this planet can use that song to make the audience happy. You know, it's the best encore ever. No matter what genre you play, it's such a great statement. And he came up with not only that song and the movie and the whole thing, but also the solo as the end story that picks up and, you know, makes the final statement. Unbelievable. Kat, always a big pleasure talking to you. Yeah. No, thanks for joining in again. We will meet up at next NEM definitely, and we'll probably go to the beach as you suggested the other day because I love it. I love
Yeah,
it there.
this summer actually, because we are doing some German dates and some Austrian dates, so I'll see where we are.
Yeah, maybe we can meet up here, and you always have an invitation in my place here. Let's see.
Thank you so much for contacting me, Thomas. It's always a pleasure.
Okie doke. So, hey, have a good tour. See you probably in Germany, if not in LA. Cheers. Thanks.